The clouds hung low and heavy, a bruised grey that matched the mood of the morning. As if aware of the tragedy the world was about to witness. It felt like the world was holding its breath. They dragged him through the village's narrowest path, not like a person, but a broken door. His knees were raw from the death path, his hands tied so tight they looked like twisted ropes. His shirt, once a crisp blue, was now a torn rag stained with sweat, tears, and the thick smear of blood. The shouts were a chorus of condemnation. "Thief," one person screamed, their voice laced with fury. "He must be killed," another yelled, their face twisted in a mask of rage. He was just a boy, really, barely old enough to grow a beard, but in the eyes of the mob, he was a monster. They shouted louder. Some spat. Others pointed. "Criminal. Wicked boy. He should be killed." "What did he steal?" someone asked from the crowd. The shopkeeper, a woman with a face as hard as stone, pointed a trembling finger. "He stole my market money. 25,000 naira. It was him." The accusation hung in the air, heavy and final. He tried to speak, but his voice was a dry, broken whisper. "I didn't do it, please. I swear on my mother's life." But his words were swallowed by the noise, his plea lost in the tide of anger. No one heard him. No one wanted to. The first stone hit his forehead, a sharp crack that silenced his plea. He stumbled, then fell as a man's heavy boot found his ribs. Gasping for air, he watched as they closed in, their faces contorted with a righteous fury that chilled him to the bone. Children watched, their small faces wide with a mix of fear and morbid curiosity. Mothers, who would normally protect their own, joined in the frenzy. The elders, the pillars of the community, just stood by, their silence a heavier blow than any stone. He screamed, not just from pain, but from disbelief. As blood trickled from his nose and mouth, a single, piercing cry tore through the commotion. "Mama! Mama, help me!" But his mother wasn't there. She was miles away, her back bent over a bundle of firewood she had spent all morning gathering. She didn't know her son was fighting his last battle. Someone produced a tire. Another person appeared with a jerrycan of petrol. A cold dread settled over him. His body began to shake, a tremor of pure, primal fear. "Please. I didn't do it. I want to live." His desperate plea was answered with a flick of a match. But mercy was already gone. The fire roared to life, a monstrous thing that consumed him in an instant. His screams were inhuman, a sound that clawed its way into the sky. He tried to crawl, to escape the inferno, but a stick pushed him back, a final, cruel act. His fingers, now just burnt knobs, reached out for a help that would never come. His lips moved one last time. No one could hear his last words, but maybe they were a final apology, or maybe, a whisper of a prayer. And then, there was nothing but the crackle of fire. Moments later, a boy, no older than 10, stumbled into the silent crowd. He was breathless, his small body shaking. "Stop." It wasn't him. It was the shopkeeper's cousin. She confessed. She took the money. The crowd froze. The silence was louder than the screams. Mouths hung open, eyes stared, not at the fire, but at their own blood-stained hands. A woman collapsed, her body a silent heap on the ground. The shopkeeper let out a gut-wrenching wail, her hardened face finally breaking. They had killed an innocent. They had burned a boy with a future, a boy who was just trying to survive. His only crime was being poor, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. He died calling for his mother, his last act a desperate cry for the one person who would have believed him. The sky, which had held its breath for so long, finally broke. Rain began to fall, not a gentle shower, but a relentless downpour. It wasn't enough to wash away the stains on their hands or the shame in their hearts. It was the sky weeping for a son who was gone too soon. This is a story about how quickly anger can turn a crowd into a mob, how a single lie can become a death sentence. It's a story about what happens when we let rage blind us to the truth. We live in a world where an accusation travels faster than light, and the truth often shows up too late. Where a single voice can sentence a soul. Let us not let anger blind us. Let us not forget humanity. Tomorrow, this could be your neighbor, or your brother, or your son. Will you stand by and watch, or will you be the voice that breaks the silence?